Hello and welcome to Music Legends here on NBC. I'm Jason Roberts. In this programme, two artists whose rise to fame is separated by almost a quarter of a century. But when you listen, their work is connected by a spiritual wavelength and a shared poetic soul. In a moment, we're going to meet Robbie Krieger, a guitarist and songwriter with the legendary band The Doors. Along with his closest friend and collaborator, the late Jim Morrison, they changed the face of rock music forever.
Well, after Jim died, the three of us who had always gotten along really good before, we couldn't get along anymore.
And later in the show, Nick Cave, the enigma whose highly individual work blends John Lee Hooker, Bob Dylan and the Bible with some interesting and controversial views on life.
There are songs that I've written that, particularly in regard to women, where they are very vengeful and punitive.
The Doors were formed in 1965 in Los Angeles by Jim Morrison and Ray Manzarek when they were both at UCLA Film School. After recruiting Robbie Krieger and John Densmore, Jim then named the new band after a book by Aldous Huxley. It was called The Doors of Perception. The band drew controversy from the start. In Miami in early '69, Jim Morrison was charged with indecent exposure and incitement to civil unrest following his suggestive stage performance. The remaining tour dates were cancelled and Jim left to write poetry in Paris, whilst back in the USA, warrants were issued for his arrest. On July 3rd, he was found dead in his bath from a drug overdose. His grave in Paris remains a shrine for thousands of fans today. The band never survived, but the music remains fresh and relevant.
Love me 2 times, babe. Love me twice today. Love me 2 times, baby. I'm gone away. Love me 2 times, yeah. One for tomorrow, one just for today. Love me 2 times, I'm gone away.
For some reason, the 4 personalities were perfect to make a group. There's just a balance there that makes 1 + 1 = 3 instead of 2. He was a genius, definitely, and I mean, he was a great poet, you know. I mean, he wrote stuff that I still don't know what it means, you know. Ray probably was the anchor because he had to play not only the keyboard but the bass as well. He had a little keyboard bass that he would play, and so he would have to kind of put his left hand on automatic pilot, and we would all kind of float around that. We never knew what Jim was going to do, that's for sure. You know, I never thought of him as being shy, but at first when he did get up on stage, he would have his back to the audience, you know, and we kept saying, "Turn around, Jim, turn around," you know. And finally he started to get into it. Didn't take long. When he was on that stage, he was perfect. That's what he lived for. When he was off stage, he was never happy, really. You know, one of the favorite parts for me was, you know, when before we had recorded anything, and Jim stayed at my house for about a month, and we wrote a bunch of the songs. And that to me was the most fun. You know, being able to create with Jim Morrison, you know. And that's what I miss most. Jim wrote about 75% of the words, and I wrote the other 25%. He would tell me that to write stuff that that could be like universal in interpretation. Light My Fire, for instance, which was my biggie. Many people have told me about 10 different interpretations of that song, you know, which all could be true, I suppose.
I would be alive.
I wanted it to have different meanings. I knew that it would have the sexual connotation as well as lighting a joint or something like that.
Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire.
We all knew we had the potential, but when we put out our first single, it didn't do very well. And I thought to myself, gosh, we got this great album, you know, what if nobody ever gets to hear it? Luckily, somebody talked us into putting out Light My Fire, and the rest was history.
Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire.
Jim was very hard to live with sometimes, you know. I mean, at first it was okay, you know, it was wild and crazy. But after a few years, you know, every night, you know, going crazy. At first, we thought we could maybe change Jim, but we realized after a while that Jim was going to be Jim no matter what we did, and it was useless to try to change him, you know. The thing that made him that way was the thing that made him the genius that he was. The Doors definitely had a magic circle kind of thing going. If any one of the four were different, it wouldn't have worked, you know. Especially, you know, with Jim, his personality was so odd that, you know, I think it took the three of us, other type of people, to kind of balance him off, you know. Really, I never knew what he was thinking, to tell you the truth. After Jim died, the three of us who had always gotten along really good before, we couldn't get along anymore, you know, after Jim was gone, so the circle was broken, you know.
Now, there were all sorts of rumours surrounding Jim Morrison's untimely, if not unexpected, demise. There was talk of him faking his own death to escape the pressure of fame, but we'll never know for sure because the prime witness in that Paris apartment on that day was his wife, who tragically died from an overdose in 1974. Jim's legacy, his music and his poetic lyrics still reach out and touch each new generation. And even for Robbie Krieger, playing merely a few of those magical notes can be a strange experience.
This is the first good guitar I ever got, and you can see it's like real light, and it's made out of spruce. And it's a flamenco guitar, and it has these wooden pegs, which are really hard to tune. Yeah, ouch, damn. I was into the flamenco. Spanish Caravan was a song that I wrote based on a song called Granadinas, which is a thing that most classical players end up learning. Actually, we got sued by the people who own the copyright over in France. I forget the guy's name, but you know, this was back in the 1700s or something. I knew and loved was not a drunk. That was before he started drinking, was when he did his best stuff. And, you know, I think liquor really screwed him up, you know. And if anybody thinks that it's cool to be like Jim, to drink a lot, it's not correct.
I know you can.
Jim had mentioned a couple of times that he was going to, you know, he saw himself as a shooting star that would make it real quick and then go down real quick. And he, of course, his interest in death, you know, and, you know, not that he was maudlin about it or anything, he was just really interested in death, you know. He really thought it was a cool thing to, to experience, I guess. It wasn't macabre or anything like that to us, anyway. It was like, you know, he was just really interested in all aspects of life and death, you know. People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're down. You know, we talked about it a lot, you know, and I think he always knew he was going to die young. Streets are uneven when you're down. In fact, when Jimmy and Janice had died, he said that he was going to be next. When you're strange, no one remembers your name. When you're strange, when you're strange, when you're strange. Jim knew what he was doing. He was burning the candle at both ends, but that's why I say he lived for us. You know, he knew he had gone too far, pretty much, and he wanted to give people a show and go out in a blaze of glory.
Love makes you blind. I'm going away.
You know, I still have Jim Morrison dreams a lot. Sometimes it's the past, and sometimes it's, oh, he's here and he never died, or, you know, we're still playing, or, you know, stupid dreams, really. But, you know, I mean, I don't dream about anybody else like that, you know. He definitely was the most influential person in my life. I never met anybody else like him, that's for sure. I wish he was still here.
You're watching Music Legends on NBC. Sit tight, because in a moment we'll be meeting Nick Cave, an artist whose black heart has won him as much criticism as it has fame. Hello and welcome to Music Legends.